Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 7th, 2024 Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. Roll call, please. Here?
Here.
Here.
Are there any conflict of interest statements?
No, sir.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting of October 31st, 2024.
Motion to approve those minutes.
I second them.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bid openings, I don't see any. Number 6, matters from other department heads or their representatives. Nothing. Okay, moving on to correspondence. Letter A, correspondence received from William Short, Chief of Police, requesting the approval of the petition for retirement for Sergeant Carmen Ramirez Martinez, who has served the citizens of Hammond for more than 20 years, effective the close of business on November 8th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter B, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting advertising dates of November 14th, 2024 and November 21st, 2024 with a bid opening of December 12th, 2024 for the construction plans for Memorial Park redevelopment project submitted for approval.
Good morning to the board.
Good morning, Dean.
So we're asking to go out for bid. This is a project for Memorial Park redevelopment, the new housing development that's planned. Representatives from American Structure Point, Chris Murphy and John Kennedy are here. If there's questions that you have of me, this is being funded by American Rescue Plan Act funding, and the schedule is that we get this project bid by the end of this year and awarded prior to the end of the year. And so that's our goal. That this schedule meets that requirement. We'd ask for your approval to advertise.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter C, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting advertising dates of November 14th, 2024 and November 21st, 2024 with a bid opening of December 12th, 2024 for the 165th Street and State Line Road intersection improvements project submitted for approval.
This is a rebid on a project we did earlier. We only had one bidder and the cost was, double what the engineer's estimate was. So we're going out. We hope it's a better time. We've changed some scope of the work to hopefully improve the opportunity for bidders to contemplate bidding on this. We'd ask for your approval to advertise.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter D, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting permission to solicit proposals for the 2025 street lighting and signal maintenance with a due date for December 3rd, 2024, with proposal opening on December 5th, 2024 at 9 a.m.
The administration has decided that we would outsource both street lighting and, signals have been outsourced for some time. They want to refresh that particular proposal. While contractors are typically people that do this work, it's more of a services contract than it is like a project contract because it goes over a long period of time. So the mayor's asked for me to put this proposal together. I'd ask for your approval to solicit proposals from qualified firms.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Letter E, correspondence received from Dean Button recommending the design of the downtown Hammond Station platform be awarded to American Structure Point.
This is part of our READY grant funding opportunities. So we sort of broke it up into 3 different categories. One was the station itself, right? And we awarded that project to Alex Corlin in New York to do the station design. There's Station Square, which is a project immediately to the west of where the Russell Street station will be. That's progressing. I think we have a project coming up here to award that particular project. This is the platform design, separate from the station, right? Because we felt like an architect would be involved in the station design and we'd want an engineer involved in the platform design. There's some coordination between the two. This is being funded, as I said, through READY. So we have to follow the procurement procedures for consultant selection. We received 3 responses. One was a response by American Structure Point that met all the criteria. One was from a firm called Patriot Engineering that only qualified their work to be geotechnical work, so that we couldn't accept that proposal. A third firm notified us that they would not be submitting. So we feel like we have the documented amount of responses required to meet the qualifications for consultant selection. American Structure Point is more than qualified to do this work, and so I'd ask for your approval to award the proposal to American Structure Point. We would then go to negotiations for contract of the fee and the scope of work to design the station platform.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Letter F, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting the approval for the agreement of professional services with American Structure Point for the design of the station square as considered in the downtown Hammond master plan in the amount of $598,630 submitted for approval.
So this is ready funds. We want to try to get these fees allocated as quickly as possible in light of changes in governorship and the concern that we have about clawing back ready funds from recipients. So we wanted to get this awarded. American Structure Point was one of a number of firms. I think there were 6 firms that submitted on the project. This board awarded them the project, and now we're at a point of going to contracting. Engineering departments reviewed the contract. It's all in order. We'd ask for your approval of their agreement. Again, it's funded by READY, so it's not through an ARP funding source. It's not through gaming or funding green sheet, right? It's READY funds contracted through with the Board of Public Works and Safety.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Letter G, correspondence received from Dunnett Bay Construction advising of the 3-week delivery time for the bridge bearings material. They anticipate the work to be completed by December 5th, 2024, which would allow for the road to be open on December 6th, 2024. The detour route will remain the same and all signs will be removed on December 6th, 2024.
This is the Kennedy Avenue Bridge, right? We've had a lot of complaints from local businesses and residents that Kennedy Avenue's been closed for so long.
Got 2 calls yesterday, actually,
The
yes.
sanitary district project is complete, and we reopened that about 10 days ago to allow Dunnett, it's probably closer to 2 weeks ago, to allow this county bridge project to move forward. They found that there was a problem with the way the bridge lands on the bearing. There was some eroded or corroded away steel that needed to be replaced. They're saying it's going to take 3 weeks to fabricate these pieces and to be able to put it back onto the superstructure of the bridge. And so it's another 3 weeks. And I asked them if there any way for them to expedite this, and they said they would do everything they could, but there was no guarantee that they'd be done any sooner than this.
So unless we're advised otherwise, December 6th is the day that we believe it'll be open?
Correct.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Letter H, correspondence received from, the Controller's Office requesting the approval of the renewal of amusement device license for Buffalo Wild Wings Grill and Bar.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Letter I, correspondence received from Jonathan Slay requesting permission to update the church sign at the corner of 165th Street and Holman to include their church name and logo.
Motion to approve contingent on that the sign itself, the dimensions, and the height, nothing changes except for the wording.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter J, cover sheet for the Holman Avenue Street Project number 2002586, submitted for signature.
The number is the DES number. So this is a federal aid project that we have in progress. It's scheduled to bid in March of '25, so in a few months. So we need the Board of Public Works and Safety's signatures on the cover sheet as part of the submittal to NDOT. There's nothing more than that. If you could just approve signing off on the cover sheet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Number 8, matters from board members. Anything? Okay, number 9, new business, letter A, hearing for the denial of business license, Dead Walker Arms LLC.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Could you give us your name, please?
Dominique Morton Thompson.
Okay, and your association with the business?
I'm the owner and president.
Okay, go ahead.
I currently have 2 now, before last week, 3 federal firearms licenses, 2 in Pennsylvania, 1 in Washington. I moved from Washington here because I'm a software engineer for JP Morgan, so I'm going to start working in Chicago. Moved to Indiana because of the laws here pretty much for my business, which allows me to operate. Earlier this year, around March, I started contacting Hammond City Council about pretty much me moving my business to Hammond County and all the paperwork process and things I need to do. So once I got here, I was denied for my business license once I thought everything was great. And the reason for the denial was it said that no manufacturing is allowed on the property and also no retail sales. I did speak with Hammond County and said that the manufacturing is not what they thought it was. It's not that I have big machines in my house and I'm literally cutting metals or doing anything else. Manufacturing for my gun business and what I do is literally putting pieces together. I order pieces and I assemble them together and then I sell them as a firearm. Also, the term manufacturing for the Federal Firearms Administration means that once I put a serial number on a firearm, I technically manufactured that firearm even if it's already made. So if I get what sometimes y'all call ghost guns, without the serial number and I put a serial number on it, then technically that gun is now registered under my business, which is considered manufacturing. Also for the retail spec aspect, I don't plan on having anybody come into my house to buy a gun. I don't want nobody to know where I live selling guns. So for me, it was the point of I can also do online sales or here I have over 16 gun shows within Indiana that's happening to the end of the year, which with that federal firearms license allows me to go to those legal gun shows and to be able to sell and manufacture at those gun shows for my business. During the day, 9 to 5, I'm a software engineer. This is a side business that I started around 5 years ago, using my own personal money, my own personal time in order to pretty much educate my community because where I come from, I'm from Philadelphia, and also Hammond has a big minority population. Guns are frowned upon. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. Afterwards, got out. I was an agent for the state of Pennsylvania. So, I was able to protect the country, protect the people of the Pennsylvania, and, I have plenty of license to carry to protect myself. So I like to educate people on gun safety, gun education. Also, this allows me to be able to take phone calls from my house and make orders for parts and things that I need because I need that license in order to be able to do it from that property. If not, I would have to travel after work to another property, which I did for 4 years. And for me talking to Hammond, I was trying to minimize that by allowing me to take care of my administration and things of that sort at home. I don't plan on manufacturing big equipment in my home. I don't plan on selling retail sales in my home. If I can online sell, that would be great. If I can't, then I would just do it at the gun shows. But I did try to talk to the city of Hammond with all of this to work it out before this meeting, and I thought everything was clear, but then I was denied, which caused me to lose actually one of my gun licenses.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Westland?
Mr. Chairman, David Westland on behalf of the city of Hammond. So I want to back up and slow down for a second. So this property is at 1323 Sherman, right? It is in a R1U urban single-family residential area, all right? And so this is the denial of a business license, and the controller denied the business license because it violated zoning. You can't have retail sales or manufacturing out of a home unless you fall within the home occupation ordinance. So when this application came in, the first thing Megan had to do was look at the application. And the application itself I think is the wrong application, but that's not why this was denied. It's for a public garage license, which I think it's just the wrong form. But it says right on the application, the primary use is for firearm manufacturer and seller and ammunition. And it says days will be open 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. by appointment and online. So while I appreciate the presentation today, the application that your controller had to look at was the one that was filled out and signed. And what this applicant has is a Type 7 ATF license. So she went in with the help of Mr. Poland, who's here, and if you have questions for him, he can certainly answer them. She went in and she looked, and they looked as to what can you do with a Type 07 ATF license. And what you can do is you can manufacture and sell retail the firearms and ammunition. And on the application, the primary use was manufacture, online, and retail sale of firearms and ammunition. Okay, so that's what she's got to go off of, right? What's in this application. And Mr. Poland then, as your city planner, looked at the zoning ordinance. And as I said, this property is an R1U single-family residential zoning, which is urban residential is how it's defined. So it's a more urban area as opposed to suburban area, right? So the lots are a little bit smaller, right? And the house is a little bit closer together. Manufacturing of any sort is not permitted in any residential area, right? So period, right? Full stop. Sales, retail or wholesale are not permitted in a residential area unless you fall within the home application ordinance. And the home application ordinance is Title Section 19.35.12, which states that retail sales are not permitted in a residential area. The request for retail sales, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. by appointment, is contrary to the on-premises prohibition and contrary to the incidental sales and direct sales product parties of not more than 4 times a month. So Mr. Poland determined that it didn't fall within what you would traditionally view as a home occupation ordinance. So, I mean, there are options, right, for this particular petitioner with regard to the zoning, right? There could be a use variance, and I'm just thinking of things that he could do to bring this property in compliance. He could attempt to do to bring the property in compliance, but those are steps before they get to Megan as the controller. And so she was bound, and the only thing she could do, because this property and this use, as proposed, does not comply with the ordinance, she was bound to deny the business license.
Right.
That's what you're here about, is that this is their burden to show basically that they meet, that was a mistake by Megan, and to show that, they're gonna have to show somehow they do meet the zoning, and I don't see any way under the sun that they do. So there are ways that they could attempt to bring it into compliance, but we're not there. So, and based on what Megan had to look at, and based on now what you're reviewing, I don't think there's any choice but to deny the application.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
The first thing he said is that the public garage license, that was the first license that I got sent by him in March. They then corrected that, so there is a new application that is in place besides that one that I did place in. The second thing is for the 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The ATF requires that every federal firearms license has business hours to where you can be contacted. Mine is 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. by appointment only or online, because when you call me, I don't have a physical storefront, so I don't have a place where you could be at. But you could call my cell phone and leave me a message, which I'll respond to once I get off for work and can answer calls back. As far as the retail sales, once again, I said no retail sales will be done on property. I don't want nobody in my house, knowing where I'm at selling guns. And when I did send in the application, even to the police department, my only exclusion was myself, my girlfriend who lived there, and the City of Hammond Police Department, which was on the application. Because I also help out the local police departments and the military with firearms. And with city compliance, I looked at the city ordinance for a home occupation. I meet every criteria. As I said, that I will not sell guns from my house, retail direct sales, which is in their retail policy that I was denied for, and also pretty much the manufacturer, and I said that I do not need to manufacture on property. The state of Indiana has gun shows where they allow people with federal firearms licenses to go manufacture, sell, trade, and do everything else. So at those things, at those events, I can actually produce my business there, but I need the license in order to produce my business at those events.
See, that, the issue I think we have here is you might meet the criteria as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I think the problem is it was done the wrong way the first time, at least that's the way it sounds to me. Now, whether you'll ever get to the point that you need to be to get the license, I don't know. But it sounds like from our perspective today that it was done the wrong way the first time.
No, so I contacted.
I mean, I'm just talking about what
Yes,
Mr.
I
Westland
understand,
said.
sir.
Yes, yes.
Responding to that, I contacted him since March. I've been in contact with multiple people throughout the office, starting with Lisa and Tim, who was the first people that I contacted within the city of Hammond in March, and I have emails to prove it. From there, I've been contacting everyone up until, sorry, your name is Mark?
No, I'm Dave Westland.
Dave Westland, sorry. I was contacting another lawyer, Mark Smith, who they put me in contact with to make sure that I was in compliance and meeting all standard criteria. When they sent me the first time the compliance codes ordinance that I might be in violation of, I sent them how I will be in compliance and how that I will make sure that I'm in compliance with that, even with the ATF, who was in most of the emails, along with the police department, ensuring that I will be in all local, city, and federal compliances with my license. So with that, I don't understand how they're saying that there was some mix-up when I've been communicating with them every step of the way. But at first, they sent me the wrong application. I corrected that, sent them another application that they sent me back. Then they told me I had to fill out other things. I filled those out. They told me I needed to fill out other forms and licenses. I filled those out and sent them back. So every step of the way, I have sent everything they asked me within less than 72 hours of them telling me that I need it. So I don't understand what they're saying that I'm not in compliance or they're not understanding how we could not be in compliance where communication was open, my lines was open, even with the ATF, FBI, and the state police who I have to communicate with to let them know my intent. I didn't hide my intent, I didn't facade it, I didn't do anything else but present it to them in a direct manner of what I wanted to do to make sure that I was in compliance with local, state, and federal ordinance.
And I want to be clear, I'm not, this is not a situation where it's form over substance, right? Whether, and I don't have access to the second application. The public garage license tells me everything, same information's in there as what would be in the regular license. And that's how I know that zoning is a problem with what they've proposed and signed in the application under oath that, hey, we're going to do this from 9 to 7, we're going to blah. That's where I know that it doesn't meet zoning, and that's where Mr. Poland knew that it didn't meet the home occupation ordinance. Now, there's options, right? If I have a piece of property that doesn't technically meet your ordinance, there are options for me as the landowner. And listen, I hear what the petitioner's saying, and I get it, and I certainly appreciate all the things he's doing that are good for the community, but he would need to go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, ask for a variance. It would then go to the council. It'd be a use variance. It'd wind up in front of the council. And my guess is that all the things he's saying that are different than what's in his application, where he's saying, listen, I'm not going to have anybody at my house. That would probably, if they were to grant it, which they have complete discretion one way or another to do, they would have the opportunity, though, to say to him, all right, I'll consider granting this if you're going to propose that condition, right? But the way this is teed up right now for Megan as your controller and for Mr. Poland, they had no choice but to deny it. And, you know, if there's an application in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, I'm sure they'll take it and they'll consider reasonable conditions that they can work with this petitioner on and whether or not they give a favorable or unfavorable recommendation to the council. Then the council gets it and they get to decide, right? So it's just not procedurally with what the information we're dealing with today, and I assume when he said Mark Smith, he meant Kevin.
Kevin, yes, sir.
But where we're at today, without the ability of the city to impose conditions, I don't know how, you know, Mr. Poland was supposed to say, yeah, because it doesn't. It just, objectively, it doesn't meet zoning. So when it doesn't meet zoning, then you turn to Megan and you say, Megan, it doesn't meet zoning, and as a controller, she's got no choice. And that's where we're at.
So I have two things with that. The first one is the rebuttal to go into zoning to get a variation. So I tried to do that. The first step that it was at before it went back into Megan was actually with sorry, I forgot his name.
Brian Poland.
With Brian Poland and who I was talking to. So Brian Poland and between the controller's office and zoning, they were flipping back and forth of who's going to control it. I have emails from Megan's office saying that they weren't going to deny my business license, that I was meeting the criteria at first, and that is with zoning. Then I have my emails from Brian telling me that, hey, it's not with my office, it's going back with the business license, and they're the first stop. So with the variances and everything else, I did ask, do I need this? Can I do it? And they told me no, the application is the first step. So what this sir here is saying is pretty much a complete opposite of the emails and the letters and the conversations I've had with Megan's office and also with Brian Poland in his office, and also with the emails that the police department are tagged on when I'm asking what can I do to make sure that I meet the criteria. So right now what he's telling me is that, hey, you should have did the variances and everything else, which I asked about could I do. You should have went to zoning, which it was at with Brian Poland, who switched it back to the controller's office. And even Brian Poland and Kevin Smith told me that, you know, their office has nothing to do with it no more. Then when I went to Megan's office, she told me, hey, my office don't have nothing to do with it no more. So then it got switched back to Brian. And I've been on this tirade of going back and forth, which the police department is also on the emails, along with the ATF and FBI saying what is going on pretty much. That's what I'm getting from the ATF and FBI. It's like, you're doing everything correct, you have your paperwork in line, you know how to do this process because you did it 3 times before, you contacted the state early, you went, you asked for the variances and everything else, you asked what can you do to be in compliance, and they've been holding you off until now I get a denial letter and I'm standing in front of y'all. And I'm being told to do the same things that I've already tried to do.
Okay, so who can explain, can you come up, Brian, please? No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I kind of want to make a slight rebuttal, I guess, to his statement. In one of my emails, I did give him the option of going to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think I stated at the time who was appealing my decision in my interpretation, and I appreciate the attorney, pointing out that there was that other way of doing it. Based on some of our internal conversations, we took the pathway that we thought was appropriate to bring it to the point of the denial.
Okay.
And that is a good point that Brian brings up. So Brian issues the way it works, right? Like, he does have 2 choices, and I was remiss in not bringing up what Brian just said. Once the zoning determination was made by Mr. Poland, then the petitioner has a choice, right? They can either accept his decision and go through the Board of Zoning Appeals process that I went through a minute ago. But a petitioner can also say, I disagree with Brian. And that has happened in the last several years, where then it's an appeal of Brian's decision, and the appeal of that decision is to the BZA. And the BZA then sits as a judge over whether or not this use meets, whether or not it meets the home occupation ordinance. That's a separate and distinct alternative process that he could have taken, or he could have just asked the BZA for a use variance. He probably could have filed both applications to get in front of BZA at the same time, quite frankly. But yeah, because he would have landed there either way.
Excuse me, sir, but it sounds like something got lost in translation, or he maybe didn't understand that. So I guess the point is today is, I think I'm hearing loud and clearly that's his 2 options.
Can I say something to that, though?
You can, but I don't know that it's going to change anything today. I mean, I think if they give you the 2 options you have, and that's explained, you have one or both, then you have to do that, because I don't think we have enough information here today to decide.
Well, my thing is, so also it was a thing with due process. So when zoning first told me that, hey, we don't know, we got to wait for the business license, I asked zoning, what do I need to do, or is there any other place where I can appeal? They told me no. They told me the first thing you need to do, and I have the emails from Brian Poland that says that the first thing you need to do is go with the business license. Until the business license is decided, we can't decide zoning or anything else. So right now the process they're telling me to do is counterintuitive to what they told me before. So for me to leave here with no clear direction is just putting me back in the same state that I was in before.
No, that's why that's not going to happen. You're not going to leave here without any clear direction, for sure. That's not going to happen.
But also for the denial reason on what they're saying on the retail sales and the manufacturer, my thing is, if somebody puts Legos together and sell a toy, or makes an action figure with a 3D printer in their house and all those things, the definition of manufacturing is something made from raw material by hand or machinery. So when people are producing these things in the house, like home businesses, selling quilts or anything else, those things are producing or manufacturing those products. Their biggest thing on what they're saying is you can't manufacture in your house. So that means that nobody in this county should be making anything for profit that out of their house and selling anywhere else. which is the single definition of manufacture, which they're saying that I'm not meeting. And what I'm telling them is I'm not manufacturing out my house. I can manufacture in the state with this license legally by events that the state have. So these are state-ran events that they allow me to do what they're telling me that I cannot do in my house, but I need a license for it. What they're telling me to do is to go to zoning. I've already been to zoning. Then they tell me to go to the business license. I've already been there. They tell me to file appeals. I've already asked how to do it. This is the first one. It's also been no due process to the point where I file the paperwork and I get no response back for weeks or months at a time. And I'm asking them, hey, what's the next step in the process? What's the next step in the process? So it's being delayed and it's being carried out to a point where I lost the license because of this process, which I started way before in March. It shouldn't take this long. It should take maybe 30 days for me to switch my license over to the state. I have to give the ATF and FBI a 30-day notice before I move my license, which I did and tried to do all these things to make sure. So it seems like what the lawyer is saying right now is counterintuitive, or he didn't speak to the actual representatives because it is in direct rejection of what they were saying and what the emails I have proof of. And this is recorded, so we could go back and look at it, and we can literally look at the emails, look at this conversation, and see how it is counterintuitive to each other.
Any response to that?
Yeah, I mean, I have been advised along the way as this has gone. I don't know months and months because until he filed an actual application, right? Like it doesn't come to the law department. In terms of, he said, I mean, he brought up due process. I want to be really clear, right? Like your denial of a business license, your due process is this appeal, right? Like you have the right to be heard.
But how long does that have to be drawn out?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Just, you know, in terms of how long it took to get to the actual denial, I don't know the answer to that, right? So, but I can tell you, to your question, Mr. Chairman, you asked, you know, I want to give him direction walking out of here today. Whatever's happened to bring us to this point, right, like there's not a lot I can do about that. I know where we're at today, though, and where we're at today is he doesn't meet zoning as determined by your zoning administrator, city planner. Director of City Planning. Sorry, I get his title wrong all the time. So the Director of City Planning has determined, and he's the guy under your ordinance that has to make that determination. He's determined it doesn't meet zoning. There are two choices from that. Number one, he could appeal that decision. Now, I don't know, there's a time limit on that. I mean, and that's the question I asked Mr. Poland. We would waive that, if that's the way that the petitioner wants to go, that's fine. We'll waive that and any time requirement, and we'll start tacking it as of today because of the misunderstandings in the past, right? Or he could file an application for a use variance. Those are the two choices he has as he stands here right now.
Either choice, can you give me a time frame?
He's going to wind up in front of the BZA.
How soon, though? Do we have any idea of that?
That's going to be problematic because right now we are preparing for the first Tuesday of December because we combine our November and December meetings because of the holidays to that first week of December. So we're already passed the filing deadline. So the next available meeting would be the end of January.
But I guess because maybe there was some misunderstanding along the way, is there's no way that he can be added potentially to that date that you're saying?
Well, you have to also understand that if he's going the right route to the use variance, it is notification of property owners within 300 feet, 10 days prior to the meeting. So that starts to be, from a time crunch standpoint, from the practicality of doing the administrative paperwork and then filings and the notifications. As far as the appeal, yeah, thank you. The appeal, technically, we probably could manage to put that on the agenda. I think I would need to confer with our attorney about, just the technical aspects of it, but that is possible.
Well, we don't have enough, we have no choice today, sir, because we don't have enough information other than to side with the city planner.
And I'm sorry, what is your information you do not have, and can I get the reason for the actual denial? Because in my paper it states retail, but then they're mentioning manufacturing.
Because all we can go by is he says it's not zoned right. That's not our area of expertise, so we have to go, that's his area of expertise, so we have to go with that today. I do want you to leave here with clear options of what to do next, and I am willing to try to help you get that date or get a date as soon as possible. We are willing to do that, but we can't make it, there's no way that we can do anything else other than agree with the city plan.
So
today.
I would want to say one thing on record.
Okay.
I find it kind of awkward that I'm at a meeting for zoning and city planning and we don't have an expert on the panel who can judge me appropriately to say what I did or did not do wrong. Right now, I'm sitting there being told by someone who is the actual defendant that pretty much, he's wrong and you're just siding with him. So it doesn't, and the other thing with due process right now, and you even heard from the lawyer and from Brian himself state, that processes wasn't following, timelines might not be in there, which means that due process wasn't had because I cannot even file the appeal or make a timeline because of actions taken by the city. So it seems like I have the city as the plaintiff, I'm the defendant, and then I have the city telling the jury pretty much what option to make for the defendant because you do not have an expert or cannot clearly tell me what statutes I'm violating.
Well,
Well,
can
go
I
ahead.
just respond to that?
Yeah.
We are telling him what statutes are being violated, and this
What
it's the home occupation ordinance statute.
And
in
what part of it is am I
in an
violating?
R1U single-family residential area, you do not meet zoning. That's the determination.
They have a home
But
occupation standard for that.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. So he has the right, and we've now affirmed on the record, it's on tape, he can appeal that zoning determination, right? So that's the process. But when he says, well, we need to have an expert on the panel, you're an expert, your determination, the Board of Works determination today is, did your controller get it right? Was the denial of the business license correct, based on the information she had? The information she had was from Mr. Poland saying it didn't meet zoning. She has to deny that license, the same way you have to deny the license. There's no zoning expert that needs to be here today. That's what the Board of Zoning Appeals is for. So when he received the information that he was not zoned correctly, that's when, and it's not up to the city to tell him his option. I mean, we are being, in my opinion, very generous today by saying, hey, we're willing to give you these options. That's why folks have lawyers that know and read the ordinances and say, well, if my zoning gets denied, here are your options, right? Like, he's supposed to know that. We're telling him that today. So to say that the city said we were wrong, no, we think that our zoning determination was correct. I think Mr. Poland's determination is correct. That's why there's a thing in our ordinances and in state statute called use variances. When zoning doesn't fit a particular property or a particular use, a landowner applies for a use variance. That's what they do. And it's not incumbent upon the city to provide that legal advice. It would be inappropriate to do so to a petitioner. Because if for whatever reason that legal advice wasn't correct, or he went down the rabbit hole of trying for a use variance and he didn't get it, then he'd turn around and say, well, I only did it because you told me I had to. And so I took your legal advice and you were wrong. So we have to walk a very fine line with helping petitioners through our process, but we cannot give them the legal advice to do it. And due process, that's what this hearing is. And it's a due process hearing on the administrative determination that you didn't meet the requirement of a business license.
Okay, so we're here today
I would like, sorry, one more thing before you make your decision.
Okay. We're not making a decision today, so just
This
so you know.
is the use case variance for home occupation. I would like, if I can pass it up to
that's
y'all.
fine.
for y'all to look at.
Yeah,
I would like y'all to tell me which of
We're
the
not-
home occupation variances that I do not meet out of that list, which is from the city of Hammond for home occupations in a residential unit, R1 unit.
so Mr. Walker, here's what we're going to do today, because again, we don't know, we need to look into this further. We're going to defer our decision. We need time to talk about this and look it over and talk to Mr. Poland. So we are going to defer our decision today.
Yep.
I can assure you it won't be deferred for as long as possible. So
Yes, sir.
We're going to do it as quickly as possible, and we will let you know when our decision is made.
All right.
Because I think we need to have some more conversation, read some more literature, and then we'll make a decision. after
Perfect.
that. Okay?
Thank you.
So that's our decision today.
Okay.
Thank you,
In
everybody.
the meantime,
Yes.
he is free to pursue the two options that, while this matter pens, right?
Yes.
He would be free to pursue those two options that we've talked about.
Mr. Walker, I just want to make sure you're clear on those two
I do,
options.
but also
Okay.
I want to say that I meet all the current conditions that are put in place by the city, so I should not have to do no extra work to have a business license and to exercise my Second Amendment in this city.
I understand.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you.
Motion to defer decision until a future date.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter B, right-of-way permits. Looks like there's two of them received from engineering submitted for approval.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There's two NIPSCO, Northcott Carroll. They are fixing a gas main. No big problem with that. AT&T is installing the infrastructure for Clark Fields. And it went through the water department. They're fine with it. So there's going to be a couple more steps with Comcast and NIPSCO going through. So I would recommend approval.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Letter C, disposal authorizations received from the Hammond Police Department submitted for approval.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter D, request for a late rental registration hearing submitted for approval.
Motion to set that date for November 21st, 2024.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Number 10, old business, letter A, Whiting Knights of Columbus Council 1696, request to label the roadway at Atchison Avenue at 119th Street, home of the pierogi drop. Yeah, we're good, yeah.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Letter B, status for 6411 Harrison Avenue.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
6411 Harrison has come along swimmingly. Progress has been made and is going in a rather quick pace.
Okay.
Very satisfied. Mr. Luder can't be here. He's got some personal situations going on, so I'm sorry I don't have pictures.
Do we need another status, Kelly? or
I'd
no?
say 60 days.
60 days? Puts us in January, you got it? Seven. January 2nd or 9th? Probably the 9th?
9th.
Motion to set the matter for status for January 9th, 2025.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Letter C, status for 6333 Garfield.
Please reflect that I'm stepping out for this matter due to conflict. Thank you.
Unfortunately, there's been no movement on this. The contractor they had picked was supposed to apply for the contractor's test.
Okay?
Failed to do so. He has to November 25th to sign up for the December test. So if we can have a continuance till after that 25th, first Thursday after the November 25th,
December 5th?
that'd be
December
fine.
5th?
Yes, I want to see if he signs up, and if not, we'll have to take other action at that point.
Okay.
Motion to set the matter for status for December 5th, 2024.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 11, late rental registration hearings, letter A, 956 Summer, 960 Summer, and 4835 Calumet Avenue. Thank you. Let's do one at a time, or Nick? or you
Yeah,
wanna-
yeah, that's fine, yeah. This is, these three properties are owned by Ms. Garza here, I believe. We had an initial hearing set for September 5th. 24, I believe, notice was sent to an address which is not occupied by Ms. Garza, so she did not get the notice for the hearing date and subsequently failed to appear. These three properties, the board had made a decision on that date, however, to send them to Smith-Sursick. That was halted after knowledge of the notice issue had came up due to a few concerns regarding each address. So 956 Summer is listed as Mrs. Garza's personal home, right? That's your primary residence? And then in 2020, there was an interior inspection done to verify that an illegal second floor apartment had been removed. However, it was still found to be in place. And therefore, as it being her primary residence, having an illegal unit, technically she wouldn't have to register the property if it would have been converted back to a single-family home while she occupied it. However, I believe it was occupied at that time. We're here for 2023 and 2024 for each property address. So in 2017, the Board of Public Works approved the findings and decisions to order the second floor apartment and basement apartment removed, and then the 2020 inspection resulted with it still being discovered existing. And so that was the main concern with this property address. And then the homestead issue is currently being claimed on Calumet, which should technically then be applied to this address since it is her primary residence.
Okay, so a question, you said 2017 you discovered it.
No, 2017 is when the hearing occurred in front of
Okay.
the Board of Works to have it removed. It was affirmed for removal. And then Rich has been, discussing with her to eliminate it. They verified the basement had been eliminated. However, in 2020, inspection resulted in finding the second floor was still in existence. And there's no permits on file or any other inspections to verify it's been removed.
So as of today, we believe it's still there, or we know it's still there?
That's the information that we have.
Okay. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Could you give us your name, please?
Hildy
Okay.
Garza.
Okay, could you
Okay.
tell us in that particular, is that apartment still there?
The apartment is still there. The first hearing, okay, I missed it on account because I spoke to the law department in April. I went to sign up for the 2023 and 2024, and they realized that I had not signed up for the 2023 rental registrations, okay? But when I spoke to the law department about a week ago, I don't have those notes with, but the late Linda was her name. She said,
Can you pull that mic down a little
sorry.
bit closer? There you go. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Okay.
She said that she had made a mistake. She mailed it to 9/36 instead of 9/56 summer.
Okay.
So I said, well, can you send me another letter? I said, so I can go. She said, no, I'm not going to send you a letter. She says, just write down the date. So I did for this date. So I'm here, okay?
I think we understand the
Okay.
confusion of the dates, so
Oh, okay.
we're good with, I guess we just need to go over, is that apartment been removed that we talked about?
Okay, this was my understanding during the inspections, okay? I did have a basement apartment, that was removed,
Okay.
okay? I lived upstairs, okay, and then there's the main floor. They said that as long as I lived in the house, that apartment was fine upstairs, and I've always registered it as the main floor as, since it's been empty, since I haven't been renting it out, but I've always lived upstairs, and they've always approved that, okay? And I was never told to remove the upstairs apartment. They told me I could rent it out as long as I rented out the house as a single-family unit. So since that inspection, I have not rented it out. I've been the only one living there. I'm using it now, I'm there, but I'm using the upstairs as a storage.
So the question, Nick, if it's not being rented, does it have to be removed? That's the question, I guess.
Well, if that's the case, we would need to verify that, first of all. Second of all, we would most likely bring the property back in front of the board based on the results of that inspection to file the appropriate paperwork, such as like a covenant of use restriction,
Okay.
to ensure that it doesn't become occupied again. Or, honestly, a removal in these types of situations is pretty much you eliminate the kitchen area, which is demoing some cabinets, capping off 2 water lines and a gas line behind the wall, covering up, and then it's done. I don't know the specifics around the electrical, metering and whatnot, but I mean, that's not something that we would, essentially require as long as we could verify it's vacant, but there'd still be paperwork that you would definitely need to file on an annual basis to ensure that how the home is being occupied. Those rental registrations for those years, which she's claiming were accepted, most likely because the registration application represented the property was being occupied as a single-family home, which is what we require. Typically, when there's an owner-occupied unit and a rental unit, we have to have the owner listed in what unit they occupy, and then the unit the tenant occupies. there'd be a zero charge for the owner because it's their unit rent, but it would still reflect a 2-unit property, right? So at this time, if it's not being rented, then she technically wouldn't have to register it. But we would want to make sure that we do an inspection and we have the proper paperwork filed so that we can account for its removal at some point.
Okay, so because of the mix-ups of the dates, and addresses,
Right.
do you have any objection to waiving the late fees? I guess is the first question.
Ms. Garza, was the unit was occupied by a tenant in '23 and this year at all?
No,
At neither year?
no.
Okay.
I have, if I could say something. I didn't register 2023. This really is why I'm here, because when I went to register 2024, the code enforcement told me that they had no rental registrations for me. So they said, well, maybe we missed something. Could you bring yours in? So I went home and I had all the rental registrations for all the years except for that. So I'm like, what did how could I have missed this? And then I just came to the conclusion that I have elderly parents, Fidel and Elva Garza. I've been taking care of them and they've been sick. And so I missed 2023. That's when both my parents were, in and out of hospitals. And I just missed it. So when I went back on 2024, that's what,
Well, ma'am, I think we're going to waive the late fee for 23 and 24.
Okay, thank you.
But we need to make sure that the properties come under compliance, whatever that entails.
I understand.
And Nick can explain that to you, and you're going to have to get done what needs to be done, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
So and unless you object, Nick, I think we're not compelled, but we're going to probably waive the late fee.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to waiving late fee. I don't believe one would be applied if it's not occupied as a rental.
Well, that's what I don't know, then what do we
I would
hold off?
request that the board consider a recommendation to take no action for the rental registration and request the owner to submit a affidavit for occupancy and then schedule an inspection so that we can take care of the number of units of the property.
Got all that.
That's
Okay.
just for 956.
Correct.
A motion to take no action at this time and also advise the owner to fill out all the proper paperwork needed to get this cleared up.
Okay. And when he says the proper paperwork, meaning?
An affidavit, because you would technically qualify for an exemption from the rental registration ordinance because it's not occupied by, if it's your primary residence and you're the only one that lives there, you don't have to register it. But we would need an affidavit to solidify the point in time when that change in occupancy occurred. In order to do that, we do an inspection, you have the affidavit filed, and then you don't have to register this property as a rental property. You only have to register it if it's occupied by a tenant.
Right.
So if you're stating that
Yeah,
this
I've never
property.
paid. Yeah, I've never paid because I lived there and it's been empty.
Yeah, we can discuss the technicalities after
Okay,
meeting. That's
that's
Yes,
fine.
please,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, so, okay, so that's, we've,
956.
you made a motion.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're moving to 960 Summer.
So 960 Summer, unfortunately, we don't have Ms. Garza actually listed as an owner of this property throughout the history. I understand, I do notice that there was a land contract that was recorded in September of 2018, but then the date on the actual document is from 2016. But since that point in time, it has changed hands numerous amounts of times to the point where the assignment of the contract was issued to another company by Echos Holding LLC, then they sold it or quitclaim deeded it to another one, and then quitclaim deeded it over the years to different business entities with Ms. Garza not listed as a property owner.
I went to the courthouse because I didn't,
Okay. Okay.
it is my property. I've been, you know what, I've been paying mortgage. I have the mortgage company that I talk to with every month. But there was an issue with this, again, when I went to go register my property and they just asked me, Ms. Garza, do you own this property? And I said, yes, I do. So then I went to the Crown Point, to the court there, and I asked them, I said, there's a question about my ownership of this property, and they looked it up and they said, no, Ms. Garza, they said, it is your property. So
Did you buy it through a bank,
I bought it through a contractor.
Contractor.
On contract.
On contract?
Yes, sir.
Currently, the Lake County Treasurer has SunWest Trust FBO William D. Jong IRA out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, listed as the owner, and that's the person receiving the tax bills.
Do you know who that is, ma'am?
I'm sorry?
Do you know who that company
Yeah,
is?
that company, no, I've heard of him, but I have it on paper. And again, I called an attorney and I asked him, I really didn't hire him, but I told him the issue, and he told me, he said, no, Ms. Garza, he says, when you buy a property on contract, he says, it can be sold. I didn't really understand all of it, but he said, it can be sold, but you're still the owner of the property, because I remember that name, but that's as...
Yeah, the mortgage can be sold, but it seems like there's a problem here with if you actually own the place or not.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that needs to be cleared up somehow.
I'll take care of it.
Please
The-
do.
The only other document recorded in there that even mentions the land contract was the very next assignment, as you can see in the list from the recorders. That assignment does mention the contract being transferred to another company, but all the quitclaim deeds for the property, not a single one mentions this contract with Ms. Garza.
Yeah.
And therefore, I feel like these companies might be, not being, full honest with everything.
Because Ms. Garza, if I get a mortgage with the bank and a 30-year mortgage, in those 30 years, it can get sold to another mortgage company 3, 4, 5 times. It can happen.
You know what, sir, that's been on my mind. I've been thinking about hiring an attorney to go over this and to just make sure that my name is on there, because I have all my paperwork, I have all my notes from the time that I bought the property, so I will check into that.
Please do, because it's going to
Yes.
protect you also.
Yes,
So
yes.
So at this time, I would just request the board take no action as, Ms. Garza can't produce documentation showing that she's the valid owner of the property. We wouldn't be able to accept a rental registration from her.
Okay, but you're going to
Yep,
have conversation
yep,
with
yeah,
her
we'll
about that? Okay,
Have to.
okay. No action yet. Yeah, no action on that one. Okay, 4835 Calumet Avenue? Okay,
All right, so with this property, again, we're here for 23 and 24. The property was brought in front of the Board of Public Works for a late fee appeal hearing in 2018, again in 2019. And then there's also a homestead that is being claimed on this property that we would request Ms. Garza complete the rest of this application to remove that homestead, since, we already have a matter record that she admitted her primary residence is the 956 Summer, so we would just ask the homestead to be removed.
Okay, thank you.
areas, I just need you to fill out.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask you a question? Who's listed on the homestead for 4835?
You are listed as the individual
Okay,
that is receiving a homestead tax exemption for this property address at Calumet.
okay.
Ms. Garza, I think we're going to waive the late fees, but I can tell you that now it's been 18 and 19, 23 and 24. If you come before the board again on this particular residence, we won't be waiving the late fees.
Okay.
You got to do something to try, because this is now 4 times in, 6 years? So it won't happen again. I just want to make sure you know that.
I haven't been here 4 times.
No, you've been here 18 and 19, and then you're here for 2 years right now.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
4 years is what I
Okay.
shouldn't have said 4 times, 4 years.
Okay.
So we are going to waive the late fee today, but keep in mind, make sure that
I'm
this
gonna
happen
take care
again,
of it,
okay?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Motion to waive the late fee contingent on the removal of the homestead exemption.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Ms. Garza, if you want to wait, you can speak with Nick after the meeting,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the meeting's now open to the public. Does anybody have anything they want to say? How you doing, sir?
Good morning.
Could you give us your name, please?
My name is Walter Jackson.
Walter Jackson, and where do you live, Walter?
I live at in Gary, Indiana, 4780 Pierce Street.
Okay, what are you here for today?
Yes, I'm the new purchaser of 4934 Ash Street in
Okay.
Hammond. And I was able to find a meeting from October 10th online, and it says it's up for demolition order. And pretty much I'm asking for, I will have the deed in 3 weeks. And I'm asking for permission to fill out the demolition inspection form before I get the deed.
Kelly, can you help us with this one?
Sir, you said you do have the ownership paperwork?
I have what I have from Lake County when I purchased it at the foreclosure sale.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Then you could go downstairs and pay for the demo inspection. It's to our advantage to get the demo inspection done so everyone knows what the property's conditions are, and that'll start the rehab, demolition process, the rehab agreement, demo inspection, demo report, rehab agreement, and then you have to get contractors to do the work, okay? So I have no problem if you have, as long as you have paperwork showing that you have ownership of the property, I have no problem with you paying for the demo inspection.
I mean, I attempted, and they told me that this wasn't enough. I can show you what I have.
Please.
So Kelly, there's no chance, I guess, do we know if that's getting demoed anytime soon? Is there enough time to get all this stuff done?
I have to go down and check, but
Okay,
it doesn't
okay.
ring a bell for me right now, so I would say it's not that close.
Okay.
That's the receipt where I paid, and
So you get from sheriff, it's, you basically take immediate possession.
yes.
Yes, we'll take that downstairs, we'll get you, let you pay for the demo inspection, it's $150,
Okay,
and then we'll get that scheduled as soon as possible.
all right, thank you.
Problem.
Okay, no action then, right?
No
Mr.
action.
Jackson, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good luck, too. Anybody else in the public like to speak? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Hello?
Oh.
Can anybody hear me?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, you had his hand up.
Yes?
Sorry. Could I get clarification on 633 Garfield Avenue? What was the date that status got continued to?
December 5th, 2024.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.